The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. A major political standoff is unfolding in Senegal right now, and it changes everything we know about how power works in the region. The majority party in parliament just made a massive announcement. They stated that they will completely stay out of the country's new government, refusing to accept any cabinet positions or ministries. Yet, right after that announcement, the new prime minister went on television and named a full government anyway, listing around 30 new ministers. This creates a massive puzzle. The party that won the election and controls parliament refuses to join, but a government is formed regardless. Everyone is asking the same question. If the winning party is boycotting the cabinet, who is actually running the government? The truth is complicated, and the news reports do not agree. Some international reports say the new cabinet actually includes people secretly connected to the majority party. At the same time, other news outlets claim the exact opposite, insisting no members are involved at all. This confusion is the real story. It shows that the split of the top Senegalese leadership is deep and messy. It means that even if a party gives an official order, individual politicians are still making private choices about their own careers.
A country is a serious matter. A government is a serious matter. I get the impression that President Bassirou Diomaye doesn't know what a government is. I feel like the problem has become a personal issue. I don't know what I did to you. I don't know why there is this fixation on me, personally. I don't even know if it's a fascination. I don't know what the problem is. President of the Republic, His Excellency Bassirou Diomaye Faye, invited me as Prime Minister to a meeting at the Presidential Palace. I finally arrived there at approximately 4 p.m. in the afternoon. We had a discussion. Furthermore, he formally expressed his sincere desire and firm intention to completely terminate our professional collaboration and long-standing partnership because he felt that a number of specific positions I had taken recently caused him a great deal of personal discomfort and were deeply problematic from his own professional perspective. I fully acknowledged what he said and decided to simply offer him a helpful suggestion. Because on several occasions I had gone to see him to propose this solution. That if the pond was too small for the two of us, we had a solution, an alternative. I could have stepped aside and returned to the National Assembly because my mandate as a deputy was still intact. Even though at the time I am speaking, people tell me that in order to obtain it from the Constitutional Council, a decision that would be the most unique ever made by this institution in an attempt to revisit this mandate, which is unacceptable. Because from 2016 until now, the same institutions, the same bodies, the same levers have been used to plot against my person practically since I entered politics. The same levers were used to remove me from the civil service, to fabricate legal cases against me, to persecute me, imprison me, and prevent me from being a candidate. It's quite apparent that, considering the current circumstances, these are the exact same practices they fully intend to continue implementing in the future. So, on several occasions, they went to see him to propose this solution, which consisted of: there is a carefully coordinated and strategic plan for me to transition over to the National Assembly, for us to discuss these matters together and eventually select a prime minister from the party, since the party currently maintains a clear and decisive majority in the House. For us to discuss the formation of a government and for us to continue working together. This would not have prevented me from the National Assembly from continuing to help him. His tasks, I wanted to propose this on 3 occasions. Notably, after the legislative elections, you saw the passives list, which won the majority with more than 80% of the elected deputies. But each time, he rejected the solution, telling me that my place was by his side in the executive because there was much to do. We could have done it in this amicable way, but he chose another path. He informed me and I acknowledged it. But I made a suggestion to him. The only thing I asked of him, I said, Mr. President of the Republic, this country cannot do without a serious government. I was Prime Minister for 2 years. I know what it entails. The suggestion I made to you is not to announce the measure right away. When you deliberately give yourself a window of 24 to 48 hours at the very most, specifically over the course of the weekend, to sit down and discuss together in detail the various practical ways, Mao, that you can effectively implement this important decision. Otherwise, you will be forced. He wanted me to partially take responsibility because he wanted me to say that it was by mutual agreement that we decided to part ways. I said no. If we discuss, we can find the points of convergence, the agreements, I can do that. If not, then you need to take responsibility and say that you fired me. So he told me, I really have to go and visit the Archbishop of Dakar right now. He said he might be back around 6 or 7 p.m. tonight. I'll definitely let you know as soon as I return so that we can start this important discussion together. So be it. I went back to the Petit Palais and waited for his call. At 8:35 p.m., he sent me a message to say that he could no longer hold the meeting and that he intended to announce the decision. The dismissal. I acknowledged it. A few minutes later, the Chief of Staff. Please proceed to read out the decree. The Secretary General of the Government for the Presidency of the Republic. That didn't bother me because it was a solution I had been waiting for a very long time. But I had set a rule for myself, which was that the break would not come from me. It would not come from me. And so, following those events, I decided to head back to my house that very same afternoon, and once we arrived, we both made the conscious choice to remain isolated in our own separate corners of the home for a period of at least 3 full days, if I'm remembering the timeline correctly, lasting all the way until Monday morning finally came around. And that Monday I had called a meeting for 10:30 p.m. A meeting that was supposed to bring together all the outgoing ministers from PASTEF, so that together we could assess the situation and decide on a position. And around 4 p.m., many of these ministers received invitations from the presidency for consultations regarding the formation of new governments. On Tuesday, many of them received. They told me about it and I asked them not to go, because that's not how things are done. It's clear now that the president is on his side and we are on ours. So if he wants to talk with PASTEF, he has to go through the proper channels. PASTEF is an organized, structured party with a political bureau, a president, a secretary general, an executive committee, and a national council. There are grassroots structures. If he wants to talk with PASTEF, he just has to go through the proper channels. And then we would discuss at that time. He refused to do so. And the ministers as well, the outgoing ministers, also refused to comply with this summons. He saw this as a lack of respect, in his own words. He felt that his ministers had disrespected him because they chose to follow the party line instead of responding to the summons from the President of the Republic. That's more or less what he said. And we remained in that situation for 2 or 3 days. And it was I who took the initiative to call him. I called him, I told him, you know the party PASTEF very well. You know how it works, you were there. The PASTEF party is very organized. When President Macky Sall wanted to meet me as president of PASTEF during the COVID episode, I told him, you were there. We called a meeting of the political bureau to discuss it. And the majority opinion was that we should go and respond. We didn't stop there. We held a conference with all 46 departments who gave their opinions. Then with the diaspora, everyone gave their opinion, and the majority view was that we should respond to this invitation. That's what brought me to the palace for the first time, for a meeting with President Macky Sall. That's how things are done. When President Diouf wanted to have President Wade in his cabinet, in his government, he called him and they discussed it. They agreed on the essentials. And as for President Wade, he was informed of the ministerial portfolios and he chose his collaborators. That's how things are done. So you can't just go around it. The party president, the core members of the party, calling people individually. But we haven't closed the door on you. If you call me, despite everything that has happened between us, all the discourtesy that has occurred in our relationship, and despite everything that has been done to us. But despite all that, if you call me, I will come and answer, we will talk. He refused, saying that he would not receive me. I told him, now I feel like the problem has become a personal issue. I don't know what I did to you. I don't know why there is this fixation on me, personally. I don't even know if it's a fascination. I don't know what the problem is. But I am stepping aside and designating someone else. 4 members of the party, all of whom are classic figures in this party, and all of whom have a special relationship with you. Namely, Mr. Alan Sall, who is present here, Mr. Biram Souli Diop, who is present here, Mr. Daoud Ngom, and Mr. El Malik Diaye. He told me that he would not receive them because they had disrespected him, because that doesn't hold up. I tried to convince him. In the end, he said that the Prime Minister would receive them. They went to see the Prime Minister. They discussed the issues that the party had raised, notably the management of the debt the overall purchasing power of the Senegalese people and the challenge of maintaining it at its current level. It was a significant and difficult struggle for months and months at the Prime Minister's office. Then, the issue of renegotiating the country's strategic contracts, on which we achieved appreciable results. And finally, the issue of justice and accountability that we had promised to the Senegalese people, but which has been completely sabotaged since we've been here. And sabotaged from within. Which means that in 2 years, nothing has been done in these two areas. Nothing substantial in any case. And these issues are the concerns of the party. We discussed, and he made a commitment by saying that he and his Minister of Finance had made no commitments to the IMF regarding debt restructuring, that they have maintained the same position, and that they were working on a different solution, particularly one involving guarantees. Alright. On the issue of purchasing power, he said that as much as possible, they would do everything to avoid raising or liberalizing prices, or applying the true cost to certain subsidized products. But if it became unsustainable, they would be forced to apply the true cost of prices. In the same way, regarding the debt, if the situation became unsustainable, they would be forced to accept restructuring. Regarding the negotiations, he said that nothing has changed, except that we need to look at things on a case-by-case basis, because we are starting to see some contentious outcomes. And finally, regarding the justice system, he believes that we have the best justice system in the world. I'm not talking about justice in general, by the way, because I know there are excellent magistrates who do their jobs well, like the Minister of Justice of Sen. We are specifically talking about the cases that you are familiar with. And they believe that things are going very well, which is not the case for me. And that's not the case for the majority of Senegalese people who believe there is a problem with justice in this country. And the selection that was made at the Ministry of Justice does not reassure me, because here is someone who was at the heart of the cases handled by this jurisdiction. I myself have been contacted several times regarding this case, but we will assess the situation. We have our doubts, but we will assess the situation, and we will do what is necessary from the National Assembly, rest assured. So all these answers are unconvincing. And on the last question, it is not convincing. That means I was not convinced. Next, we discussed the government. I will say that the majority party, which holds 130 out of 165 deputies in the National Assembly, is the majority party. In a democracy, if things were happening normally, if you have a problem with the Prime Minister, if it is the Prime Minister himself who is the issue, you ask the majority party to appoint another Prime Minister and form a government. And I had proposed this to you a long time ago. You did not do it, and you went and chose a Prime Minister who has nothing to do with our struggle. I take this opportunity to ask him to remain a technocrat, to stay out of the political game. Since he was chosen to be a technocrat, according to what we've been told, he should stick to that. Because I know a lot about what is happening and what he is doing. Out of courtesy, I have been very courteous with him up until now. He should not provoke us. Prime Minister Alhamid Ndolo, stay in your place. The political arena is not yours. I said you did not choose, you did not give us the opportunity to choose, you make choices without informing us. Despite everything, we are not sulking. For the formation of the government and the court, even though we were reluctantly called, we are discussing. Me, I'm set apart, I have no problem, I am the president of the party. And if you don't want to talk to me, at least agree to talk to my emissaries, which they refuse to do. Since then, he has agreed for the emissaries to meet with the Prime Minister. What happened is that he recorded it and promised to report back to the president, saying he would not return. The next day, he called to say that the president was going to contact me so we could talk. He didn't do it. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days went by, until yesterday, the night before last. He sent me a message around 11 p.m. saying that you were asking me to come to the palace, which I couldn't do. We had arranged to meet the next day, that is, yesterday morning at 8 a.m. I went there, and we discussed all the issues I had raised. He gave the answers I told you about. But then we discussed the formation of the government, and we are the majority party. What are you putting on the table? Because for us, if we get involved, we are the ones who give political backing to the government. Because I don't see any political group worthy of the name capable today of taking on the role of the past. And you can't form a government, run an executive without a serious political foundation. That doesn't exist in any country in the world. What's happening now is unprecedented. Yesterday we had a government that was a suspended government. Without branches, without political foundations. Historically, the Socialist Party led for 40 years with a very solid political base, going from a single party to the celebration of power. The PDS for 12 years with a strong Democratic Party and satellites around it. The same thing for 12 years with the same configuration. But tell me, what is there today? Around PRMFL? No structured, serious political legitimacy capable of influencing us. So, if PASEP were to continue, it is PASEP that forms that foundation. You can't have that and then tell us, join the government because there are positions to be filled. No, that's not what interests us. None of these ministers join a government for a salary or for personal gain. No, we join because we believe in this country. We join because we are patriots. We have skills, we have a vision, a program, and we want to carry it out. I told him, all right, let's put everything on the table. Even then, he wasn't able to tell me. In the end, it was actually me who said to him, look, if I take a moment to analyze a bit more closely the summons you issued, if I recall, I mentioned the summons you made on the first day. You summoned 7 ministers from Bastille. I said that it was actually those 7 you wanted to appoint. That's when he finally admitted that he wanted to offer 7 portfolios out of a government of 30 ministers with 0 sovereign portfolios for Bastille. And among those 7, there were 3 whom we no longer considered to be representatives of PASEF. Because they have elsewhere, it's the party's instructions to go and respond individually. Notably, Minister Balamusa Fofana, Minister C. Ibrahim C. It's strange, I could never remember his first name properly. Ibrahim too? Minister Yankuba Dieme? I told him if we were to come to an agreement, even those 3 are not passive ministers. And if I remove them from the 7, that means you're offering us 4 ministerial positions out of 30 and not a single state portfolio for a majority party. How can you even consider that? Well, little by little, he told me, okay, I can go up to 8. I said, Mr. President, we are not bargaining for ministerial positions. PASEF must sit in the government and take full responsibility for the record. Because when things go well, they'll say it's Diomaye, but when things go wrong, they'll say it's PASEF. That's how things work in this country. We have nothing to gain by joining this government. We served for 2 years. At the Prime Minister's office, with a government mostly made up of PASEF, our record is overwhelmingly positive. We froze prices, we lowered them, we renegotiated contracts, we revealed the hidden debt, we met all debt deadlines, we honored all the state's commitments, and we succeeded in major programs for agricultural campaigns. Our record is positive. We are facing a very difficult legacy with this hidden debt. We have nothing to gain today by joining the government. If we join, it is out of patriotism. We have a lot to lose by joining this government with a president whose direction we no longer understand. Starting from this specific moment in time, PASEF will absolutely refuse to participate in or join any government where it cannot have at least 50% of all available ministerial portfolios, including the critical sovereign ministries, with guaranteed continuity in the National Assembly. And we will continue to provide you with our full support. He remained fixed in his positions. I said, okay, I reported back. I reported back to all the ministers who rejected it and to all the other party members who also rejected it, completely, overwhelmingly, and without exception. And that's why then I called him to notify him of the party's decision not to join a government under these conditions. I know that the process was very difficult. The formation of the government was very delicate. Until the very last minute, calls were being made left and right without even having time to check the profiles. Ministerial portfolios were being offered here and there. A country is a serious matter. A government is a serious matter. I get the impression that President Basilio Diomaye doesn't know what a government is. You don't form a government under these conditions. Yesterday, up until 7 p.m., PASEF activists, both here and in the diaspora, contacted me to say, the president just called me. He says he wants to put me in his government. You don't form a government lightly, and that's why we have a government that will be difficult. And it's because they know that the government has no political foundation. That's why they say they formed a technocratic government. All politicians are technocrats. I am an information inspector, Birame Soli is an information inspector, Yasin is a United Nations official, and so on. Alisa is a computer engineer, he is a legal expert. All the people who are here, Daoud Ndungom is a university professor, we are all technocrats. Those who are over there have nothing more than the fact that we chose to do PAP's politics. That's the reality. It's just window dressing.
The perfect unity this movement had just a few weeks ago is starting to show its very first cracks. This leads us to the biggest question. When the party with the vote walks away from the cabinet, but the president pushes forward anyway, who is really in charge of Senegal? Everything started with a tense face-to-face meeting between the two main leaders. This was their first serious discussion since the president dismissed the prime minister. They talked for a long time, and while they agreed on a few small things, they completely blocked each other on how much power the parliament should have over the executive branch. The majority party felt they were being left out of the real decision-making. Because of this, they voted internally to stay out of the government entirely. This is not a normal political debate. It is not just an opposition party refusing to work with a rival. This is a dominant party that won the election, choosing to unplug itself from the president's cabinet. As we look closely, we can see two things happening at once. Officially, the party as a whole is out, but privately, individual members are still calculating their own political futures. The unified front has turned into a highly complex chess match. Look at the person the president chose to lead this new team. The new prime minister is not a loud politician from the campaign trials. He is a veteran central banker who has spent his career defending the regional currency. Furthermore, the president expanded the powers of the finance ministry, putting all economic planning under tight control. The strategy here is very simple. The president wanted a financial expert who can talk to international lenders and secure a deal. However, global markets did not react well to the news. Instead of celebrating a banker taking office, Senegal's foreign bonds dropped to record lows. The reason is simple. International lenders know how to count seats in parliament. They see that any budget or economic plan this new prime minister creates must still be approved by a parliament controlled by his rival. Financial markets are terrified of political deadlock. Time is running out. In just a few days, critical talks with the International Monetary Fund are scheduled to reopen to unlock a frozen $1.8 billion program. The country is facing massive debts that were hidden by the last administration. The president wants a banker to secure the funds, but the majority party's boycott makes the political environment much more difficult. This situation is a major test for the region. In many countries, a deep political standoff like this will lead to military action or emergency decrees. In Senegal, the entire fight is happening out in the open through public statements, lawful votes, and constitutional debates. It is a massive test of whether a country can handle an intense fight for sovereignty strictly through the law. To be fair, the president has a strong constitutional argument. The law gives the executive branch the clear power to appoint and dismiss cabinet. A president cannot run a country if his main partner constantly threatens to block his economic vision. With a major financial crisis looming, putting a top economist in charge is a responsible move to protect ordinary citizens from skyrocketing prices. While that argument makes sense, it does not solve the main issue. Getting rid of the previous prime minister did not answer the core question he was asking. Should ordinary citizens have to pay the price for a hidden national debt they do not create? By pushing that debate out of the cabinet, the president did not end the argument. He simply moved it into a parliament that he does not control. As this story develops, we need to focus on three main questions. First, by removing a rival from the cabinet, did the president actually weaken them, or did he just move the true center of national power directly into the parliament? Second, is a ruling party boycotting its own government a sign of political strength, or is it a warning about how much leverage a single movement can hold? Third, when the country's financial survival depends on a major international deal, the faction that likes to say no controls the voting chamber. Who truly holds the leverage in Senegal right now? What happens next in Dakar will be left across the entire continent. Every leader in Africa is watching to see if a parliamentary majority can successfully check a president without breaking the peace and stability of the state. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world in Africa, West Africa, and in Senegal.